Hi, everybody. Welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. I got an email from Anonymous, subject line, New Medical School, Second Coming, Implications. And in the email, hey, Jared, I'm sure you saw the news about the new medical school at BYU, the first presidency announced today. I'm pumped about it. I think it's an awesome thing they're doing. And I'm excited for all the great, faithful doctors they're going to produce. I did have a fun Second Coming question about it, though. Here's my question in this. Does the church's investment in this imply that the first presidency still thinks we have several decades before the second coming? Personally, I've always been partial to the idea that the second coming would be 2,000 years after Christ's atonement, so sometime between 2028 and 2034. Medical school is 4 years, and then their graduates would have to do anywhere between a 3 and 8 year residency. So, assuming it takes another 2 years to start their first class, you won't have any fully trained doctors leaving the program until 2032 at a minimum. So, two options. Will there be a need for doctors in the millennium? People will still be living mortal lives, but won't there be much less sickness or in conflict? Or is the second coming still decades off? In which case, we do need a medical school free from some of the worst worldly ideas and practices in other schools. Would love to get your thoughts and any insight you have on if doctors will still be needed in the millennium. Please keep my email anonymous. Well, thank you, Anonymous, for the email. And I do have a couple insights and some quotes to share about if doctors are needed in the millennium. And it seems like they will be. So I know that seems to conflict with the idea of being quickened and having different types of bodies, but I'll show you what I have, and I have a couple other things to say too. So first, let's look at the social media post. This is the church's official social media account. This is a message from the First Presidency. Brigham Young University is committed to academic excellence in targeted graduate disciplines, traditionally focused on business and law. The First Presidency is pleased to announce the decision now to create a medical school at BYU. A major focus will be on the international health issues affecting members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the church's worldwide humanitarian efforts. Plans for this medical school are underway, and specific target dates will be announced as they are set. It is envisioned that, unlike many medical schools, the BYU Medical School will be focused on teaching with research in areas of strategic importance to the church. I assume that probably has something to do with worldwide humanitarian efforts, or I'm not sure what. If you have any insight into that, put it in the comments. Okay. In time, the school will draw students from within and outside the United States. The BYU Medical School will not create its own hospital or hospital system. BYU and Intermountain Health are discussing a mutually beneficial clinical relationship. Also, it is anticipated that the medical school will seek collaborative relationships within various entities in Utah, including the University of Utah. Okay, and then there's like a picture of the campus at BYU. So I didn't find out much more about this, but the first thing I want to address is, okay, let's assume that doctors are not needed in the millennium. Okay, let's assume that we know that for sure. So you would think, okay, well, if there's no doctors or anyone in the medical field needed in the millennium, then this would just be a big waste of money. And why would the First Presidency announce this? So the one thing I think we need to keep in mind is this. This is from Joseph Smith Matthew, verse 48. Therefore, be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not, the Son of Man cometh. And I think this is a key and something that gets overlooked a lot, that the second coming, and, pick whatever appearance you want to talk about, but traditionally most people think about the final appearance. It's going to happen at a time that you don't expect. Even though the righteous will have a good idea that it's coming, we'll be able to see the signs of the times and know that it's soon. We're still not going to know exactly when it's going to happen. But at the same time, it's going to happen at an hour that we don't think. And so we've already gone through this exercise before on the channel where, for example, we're approaching the new year, and then the church announces its upcoming devotionals and leadership meetings and, whatever. So whenever things like that happen, whether it's the announcement of a new medical school or upcoming devotionals for the next year or the upcoming come follow me or whatever it is, I would never take that to mean that the second coming isn't going to happen anytime soon. I think that everything's going to continue to operate the way that it is right now until, there's some big change. Whether that's one of the prior appearances or the final appearance, I think it's going to be business as usual until the Lord makes a change at his coming, right? So that's one part of it, but let's look into whether there's going to be a need for doctors and healthcare workers in the millennium. All right, so the first thing that we need to understand is what are our bodies going to be like in the millennium? For those that aren't counted among the wicked, because the wicked are going to be destroyed. They're going to be burned. And the definition of wicked is if you're living a telestial lifestyle. Only if you're living a terrestrial or celestial law are you going to be permitted to move on into the millennium. And everybody that does, that's still in mortality, they're going to be changed. So let's read a little bit about that and what those bodies are going to be like. The first one, oh, and by the way, this is my quotes, Quicken Transfiguration Translation spreadsheet. There's been some controversy that I've noticed over the course of this channel about what these different terms mean. And so I have a separate spreadsheet with different quotes that define what they mean. So that's the spreadsheet that we're looking at. Okay, so we're looking under just changed because it just happens to have this quote. So this is from John Taylor at the time in the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. It's in a book called The Government of God, 1852, pages 115 to 116. Thus, having cleansed the earth and glorified it with the knowledge of God, as the waters cover the sea, and having poured out his Spirit upon all flesh, both man and beast becoming perfectly harmless, as they were in the beginning, and feeding on vegetable food only, while nothing is left to hurt or destroy in all the vast creation. The prophets then proceed to give us many glorious descriptions of the enjoyments of its inhabitants. They shall build houses and inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards and drink the wine of them. They shall plant gardens and eat the fruit of them. Now, let me just stop right there. So even though having a quickened body, there's no death or pain as we know it, it is going to still be necessary to eat food. I'm assuming that the consequence of not eating food in the millennium is that you do die prematurely. It's just that I don't think there's going to be a lack of food. But, we at least know that you will need to eat food. There's still going to be gardening and harvesting of crops and so forth. We're not going to eat meat. So that's one, physiological change that we're going to experience. So anyway, let's keep that in mind. You will need to eat. Otherwise, it seems there is the consequence of possibly getting sick. And then if it continues, dying, being malnourished and then dying. I don't know. All right, continue. In which case, maybe you would need the help of doctors to help reverse that process and get you healthy again. All right, continuing. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree are, the days of my people and mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth in trouble, for they are the seed of the blessed of the Lord, and their offspring with them. And it shall come to pass that before they call, I answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. In this happy state of existence, it seems that all people will live to the full age of a tree, and that's defined as 100 years old in Isaiah. I have it on my spreadsheets. Just go to quotes A through Z and then go to 100. So everyone will live to 100 years old, the age of a tree. Okay, and then, and this too, without pain or sorrow. Okay, so you can expect to live to the full age of a tree, 100 years old, all the while being an herbivore, and you will not experience pain or sorrow. And whatsoever they ask will be immediately answered, and even all their wants will be anticipated. Of course, then none of them will sleep in the dust, for they will prefer to be translated, that is, changed in the twinkling of an eye from mortal to immortal, after which they will continue to reign with Jesus on the earth. Okay. And then we have one more from Elder Bruce R. McConkie of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. This is in Millennial Messiah, pages 644 to 645. Okay, some mortals have been translated. Okay, in this case, he's talking about people like the three Nephites and John. Okay, in this state, they are not subject to sorrow or to disease or to death. No longer does blood, the life-giving element of our present mortality, flow in their veins. Procreation ceases. If they then had children, if they then had children, their offspring would be denied a mortal probation, which all worthy spirits must receive in due course. They have power to move and live in both a mortal and an unseen sphere. All translated beings undergo another change in their bodies when they gain full immortality. This change is the equivalent to a resurrection. All mortals after death are also resurrected. In the resurrected state, they are immortal and eternal in nature. And those among them who are privileged to live in the family unit have spirit children. Millennial man will live in a state akin to translation. His body will be changed so that it is no longer subject to disease or death as we know it. So that's interesting right there. He says, as we know it. There is a type of death in the millennium, but it's not the type of death where you're, laid down in the grave. You just go from mortality into immortality. And so that's like the new type of death. And when he says here, as we know it, that may apply to disease as well. Maybe not that disease altogether will completely be abolished, but maybe there will be a new type of or new types of diseases in the millennium. I'm not sure, but I just want to point out, he says, as we know it. Although he will be changed in the twinkling of an eye to full immortality when he is 100 years of age. He will, however, have children, and mortal life of a millennial kind will continue. Okay. And then he just goes on to say that you're going to have the two types of people on the earth in the millennium. You're going to have those that are, those that are in a, as he says, changed or quickened or transfigured or translated state, right? Those that are still in mortality with this new type of body in the millennium. And then the other type will be those that have been resurrected. Those are the two types of people in the millennium. Okay. Now let's go to my quotes A through Z spreadsheet for the topic Millennium, Medicine, Need for. And let's read in Zechariah chapter 14, verses 11 and 12, and then 16 through 19. And men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. So this is talking about essentially that period just before Christ comes to Jerusalem. And then this next part has to do with the millennium. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon him shall be no rain. And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague, wherein the Lord will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. So in the millennium, all the nations of the earth are going to be required to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And if they don't, then there's going to be famine. And then there's also going to be, like it says here in verse 18, the plague. Okay, so what is a plague? Let's just make sure we have this defined correctly. So in Merriam-Webster, it says the first definition is a disastrous evil or affliction. And then second is a destructively numerous influx or multiplication of a noxious animal. And then the next definition is an epidemic disease causing a high rate of mortality. Let's go to Oxford Learner's Dictionary. It says a disease spread by rats that causes a high temperature, swellings. For definition 2, it says any disease that spreads quickly and kills a lot of people. Number 3, plague of something, large numbers of an animal or insect that come into an area and cause great damage. Okay, so it could refer to a disease, in which case, if we're talking about doctors and nurses, pharmacists, so on and so forth, then if there's disease, then I would assume there would be a need for medical professionals, right? If this is talking about disease. If this is talking about something else, like, pestilence, you have a bunch of rodents or locusts or something like that, then you don't necessarily need doctors for that. So it's a little bit unclear, but it could be that this is referring to disease in the millennium. Okay. If we go to Orson Pratt, he just confirms this. This is in Journal of Discourses, volume 14, pages 351 and 352. From year to year, they will have to go up for the purpose of worshiping him. By and by, some of them perhaps will get into their hearts that there is no use in their going up. What is the use of our taking this long journey to Jerusalem? And they will begin to say within their hearts, we can serve God here in our own land just as well as going up to Jerusalem. Just as soon as they begin to apostatize in this way, the Lord will send a plague, a famine, that is, withhold the rains of heaven, so that their lands will be parched up. And if the family of Egypt that have no rain refuse to go up, there will be a peculiar plague set apart for them, namely the same kind of a plague that will come upon the various nations that gather up against Jerusalem to battle, just before the Lord comes and stands his feet upon the Mount of Olives. So he's referring to verses 11 and 12, where it says the plague that makes their flesh consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes consuming away in their holes, and tongue consuming away in their mouth. So according to Orson Pratt, and it does seem to read that way when you read Zechariah 14, it seems like the plague being referred to in verse 18 is the same one that you read in 12. So this is like a disease. It's something where, your body is falling apart essentially. So maybe there will be doctors that can help with that. Maybe not. The last thing I want to share is from Bradley R. Wilcox. At the time, he was second counselor in the Young Men General Presidency. This is in a YouTube video called Brad Wilcox, 12 Tribes of Israel Breakdown, Amazing Talk, on the Live Music Therapy channel. And this starts at the 34-minute and 11-second mark. This is kind of long, but I think it's worth reading. And he specifically talks about uh, doctors in the Millennium. Now, I don't know if he's using it as a hypothetical. I kind of think that he isn't, but you can decide for yourself. Okay. But I want to read all this because it's pretty amazing what he says. All right. He says, as we conclude, let's just say, all right, Brother Wilcox, we know we're supposed to gather Israel, but what exactly does that mean? Assyria from the north came in, horrible, bloodthirsty warriors. They killed many of the northern tribes, the 10 tribes that made up the kingdom of Israel. And those they didn't kill, they dragged away, and they separated them because if they kept them together, they would have rebelled. But they separated them, so within a few generations, they forgot who they were. They were spread throughout all the northern countries, but they forgot who they were. So they're probably not lost wandering around some polar ice cap in Old Testament clothing. They're lost because their posterity don't know who they are. After that, he goes on to talk about how Ephraim and Manasseh were gathered first because it's their job to gather the rest of Israel. And then he says, now you see people gather from other tribes as well. Remember when Sister Nelson talked about this at the youth fireside? So he's talking about the 2018 worldwide youth devotional called Hope of Israel. She told that story where they came across all the 12 tribes of Israel within 24 hours and how she knew that that was something that had to happen before the second coming, and she was witnessing prophecy being fulfilled before her very eyes on this trip. And then Bradley Wilcox continues, what did she find in Russia? Every tribe. It's happening, people. It's happening right before our eyes. So what if it's happening? So someone is from Issachar. Who the heck cares? What does it mean? So somebody's from Zebulun. What does it mean? When the patriarch puts his hands on your head, he's not giving you a DNA test. At this point, there's no such thing as a pure blood anybody. In Harry Potter language, we're all mudbloods. So when he puts his hands on your head, he's designating, he's by inspiration, he's telling you the tribe through which you will receive your blessings and the tribe through which you will bless others. So yes, it's a linkage to the past, but it also has to do with the future. Knowing your tribe right now doesn't matter much because all the tribes are working together to gather Israel. But when the second coming comes, that's when these tribes are going to give us a totally different organization, a different level of organization that's going to become very important. I mean, right now, we've got to get organized because when Jesus comes and he says, by the way, I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and that's what he's going to say. So do you think there's going to be a little interest in our church? Oh, yeah. Will we be ready to have 2 billion people join the church in one day? Will we have enough stake presidents? Will we have enough bishops? Will we have enough young women presidents? Will we have enough full-time missionaries? Will we have enough full tithe payers? We got to get with it. We got to get organized so that when we have that huge influx into the church, it doesn't swamp us. We've got leaders all over the world who can handle that. So Elder Darling, a hypothetical missionary. So Elder Darling, you're not going to Guatemala to baptize everybody. Now, that's what your mission president might say, and that's certainly what your zone leader is going to say. But really, you're there just to get things organized, bring people into the church, help them become leaders, help people back into the church and help them become leaders, help youth become leaders, help other missionaries become leaders. You've got to strengthen this organization so when Jesus comes, that's when we're going to baptize everybody. And we've got to be ready for that. Now, when Jesus, I transcribed this. I already had some of this transcribed, but other parts that I prepared for this video, I transcribed today. So there's still a few things I need to correct. So when capitalized Jesus comes, he's also going to govern the world. He's not going to be governed by a president or Congress or a Senate or a parliament or a prime minister. He's going to govern the world. Well, if he's governing the world, then who's helping? Us. And that's where the tribes come in. In one instant, he'll be able to say, now here's the part right here that's specific to this video. And again, I don't know if he's saying this hypothetically, but he may not be. Okay, in one instant, he'll be able to say, if you are from Ephraim, thank you for your service and getting ready for this day. Now, I'd like you to be in charge of medical care. Yeah, but I'm not a doctor. You don't have to be. Just get organized. Sorry, this is probably a bad transcription. And if you're from Issachar, you're in charge of education. Well, I'm not a teacher. You don't have to be. Just get it organized. Do you see? So, here you have a general officer of the church using this as an example, talking about the millennium. He's talking about this interesting concept of different tribes being in charge of different, fields, different industries. And he uses Ephraim, or he uses this as an example, Ephraim being in charge of medical care. So, yeah, there may be a need for doctors and nurses and other professionals in the millennium. It may just be different from what we have now. You may not have anybody that dies from a disease, except for in the case of in Zechariah, where it seems like it's like a divine punishment. But aside from a divine punishment for not observing the Feast of Tabernacles, maybe there are other millennial type things where you would need a doctor. Even though you might live a nice full life, maybe there's some millennial type disabilities or diseases. Maybe there will still be maybe there will still be behavioral health issues, psychology, who knows? So yeah, there could still be a need of healthcare workers, and therefore maybe this school is going to be instrumental in that. It has this curious phrase where it says, will be the BYU Medical School will be focused on teaching with research in areas of strategic importance to the church. So maybe it'll become a leader in the millennium when it comes to millennial disease, or maybe that just refers to humanitarian related issues. I don't know. Again, if you have insight into that, put it in the comments below. I have no idea. But let's go ahead and read the rest of this, because the rest of what he says is pretty interesting. So, President Oaks calls the tribes the government of God, and we have to be ready to be called out at a moment's notice and to be able to be part of that additional organization. For there will not just be a capital in Jerusalem from which we will run the church, but there will be a capital in the Americas in Missouri. Now, like I said, I didn't have this transcribed yet. So this is another quote to go along with my other quotes that have to do with, yes, New Jerusalem is still going to be built in Missouri, because some people feel like, no, it's going to be in Salt Lake, or we've been excused from building New Jerusalem in Jackson County. And no, that's not the case. This is just another example of a long line of examples and quotes that say it's still going to be in Jackson County. Okay, continuing. From that capital, we will run the temple and the world. And you'll be a part of that. You'll be a part of that. That's what you were born for. Now, this is interesting, because this is basically like almost like a generational quote with him talking to this audience. That's what you were born for. I'll end with one analogy that might help you understand. Let's say that God loves all of his children. Let's just throw that out there. God loves all his children, so he puts them on a big ocean cruise liner. Why would he do that if he loves them? Why would he send them away? So that they can get to know each other, so that they can have fun, so that they can be happy, so that they can learn something. But he also wants them to come back. So he looks among all his children and he finds some children he can trust. It's one thing to be loved. It's another thing to be trusted. And he's trusted you with the birthright. So he finds you and he makes you members of his crew. So when you look around yourself on that cruise ship and you think, dang, how come I can't, capital I, dang, how come I can't wear those bathing suits? How come I can't wear an immodest, I have to go back and this part's kind of murky, but he's like talking about immodest clothes for like a gala and to go to a dance. Remember who you are. You're not a passenger. You're a crew member. Well, how come I can't drink all night, sleep all day? How am I going to party like that? Remember who you are. You're not a passenger. You're a crew member. How come I can't eat at the all-you-can-eat buffet? And we're not just talking about food. How come I can't do that? Remember who you are. You are a member of the crew. Elder Darling, you are wearing a name tag that identifies you as a member of the crew. And before you complain too long and too loud because you have crew member responsibilities that passengers don't have, remember that you can get something passengers don't get. What is it? A paycheck. There's nothing you could ever be asked to do in this church, nothing for which you haven't already been paid in advance, and paid in full. All right, so let's just go ahead and we'll end it right here. So when it comes to this medical school, I don't think that we can look at it as a sign of how far away the second coming is. When it comes to whether we're going to need doctors or not in the millennium, I could see it both ways. I feel like there is some evidence that we covered here that suggests that there will be a need for doctors, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was the other way. So we'll just have to wait and see. I maintain my position that I think the second coming is sooner than later, just because of all the things that we've noted on this channel, all the things happening in the world, the things that the prophet and the apostles are saying and other general authorities and general officers of the church. So we'll just have to wait and see. That's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.